conflict on a weekly basis. What would you do?
Typically, it's always smarter to be with somebody who's easygoing, easy to get along with, who communicates well. Typically, girls that come from families that the dad runs a household, he's the alpha, he's calm, he's masculine, his wife respects him, they have a good relationship. I just saw a video the other day, I think it was on Instagram, and it was this young guy, and he was interviewing this older guy somewhere at the park, and he was like, what's your best relationship advice or life advice? And this guy was, he was talking about his wife who had passed away, I guess, a few years before. He said, we were married for 51 years. We never fought. We never argued. We just laughed and had a good time. And I miss her every day. And I can't wait to die to see her. And I'm just existing now. He's like, marry somebody who's easy to get along with and that you have fun with. And 51 years, she was everything to him because she made his life easy. She added value to his life. She brought femininity into it. She was kind. She was supportive. She was looking for solutions and looking for a way to be a good teammate, not somebody that's constantly bringing conflict. Because the reality is because I grew up in a family where there was, lots of arguing, and my mom would get in fights with her sisters, especially around the holidays, and my dad's parents didn't like my mom's parents, and during the holidays it just made things difficult. And then as the years went by, certain members of the family refused to talk to each other, and it just seemed. And then my parents would argue a lot and yell a lot and stuff, especially my dad when he would get angry and pissed off. And growing up in an environment like that, one of the things that I always wanted was I wanted to seek peace. I wanted to have peace and harmony in my life. And for the most part, like now compared to like when I was younger, I had a lot of people that brought stress into my life, especially when I was in real estate. Just the business partnership, the way we structured things, the people I hired, the way I built the business. If you're in a stressed state all the time and you're used to that, you build the business will give you stress. If you're in a calm and relaxed state, you'll tend to build a business that helps to keep you in a calm and relaxed state. And life is hard enough. There's constantly problems, and it's like, especially as you get older, you get people you got to care for in your family. You've got you're losing friends. The economy changes. It's like the ups and downs of life. It's like there's always a curveball. You never know what's going to happen next. And it's difficult as it is to get into a relationship, or it sounds like in this case, stay in a relationship where you're constantly arguing. It's like at least once a week, I guess is what it seems like. They have some kind of conflict and some kind of blow up. And typically when somebody's angry, it's what's behind anger is always fear. And human beings have two fears: fear that we're not going to be loved, and fear that we don't have what it takes. And so the more somebody fears that they're not going to be heard, or that they're not going to be loved, or they're not going to get what they want, they tend to react in anger, especially if they grew up in an environment like that where everybody's a bunch of hotheads and they yell and they scream at each other. I mean, some of this shit I saw growing up. I mean, it was funny though. The woman that grew up across the street, she had two daughters, and she was married to a guy that was a sheriff's deputy, and they ended up splitting up. And I remember, I don't know, it was like 11 o'clock at night. We had all the windows open. We had these like awning windows. And so you could hear everything outside, cars driving by, people talking. And I remember like 11 o'clock at night, I think it was, this woman shows up, and, my neighbor across the street, they got awning windows. And so their windows are open, and she's like, "You fucking whore, you tell that fucking whore to come out, you stop fucking my husband," and so God. The woman across the street is fucking some married guy, and somehow the wife found out where she lived and shows up at 11 o'clock and just starts yelling and screaming and calling her a whore and everything, and so because it was a time of the year where the weather was nice, so everybody had their windows open. And so
Everybody's out there.
it's like, what? This is great as a kid because we were in bed at night, but we're like looking at this whole thing going on, and because it went on for like 10 minutes, and there's that kind of drama. And the sad thing is both of her daughters were beautiful, really cool girls we grew up with. And one of them, the oldest, she wanted to be a police officer, and that was her goal. And then she ended up working at a strip bar, one of the ones we were talking about the other day. And I don't want to name, but she was working there, and she was just started out as strictly a cocktail waitress. It was just going to be that, and then that led to bartending, and then it led, then she started doing drugs, and then because her father was a sheriff's deputy, it's like through his contacts, he's like, hey, don't go to work tomorrow. They're going to get raided. And she went and told everybody that they were going to get raided. And so when they got raided, they were like, oh, so-and-so, because a lot of the evidence had been removed and stuff. And everybody narked on her that she was the one that gave everybody a heads up.
Uh-huh.
So that ruined her chances forever having a career in law enforcement. And that was her dream because her dad was a sheriff's deputy and loved his job.
She could have got him in trouble.
I don't remember what happened with that, but it's like she felt horrible, and then she got more into drugs and more into that scene, and then she eventually ended up killing herself. This girl was beautiful. She was so beautiful. And she won the DNA lottery. She was charming. She was cool. She was popular. Went to the same high school as me, and it ended like that. She ended up taking her life. So it's, you get you can look at that and go, well, that's kind of the extreme, that she grows up in that environment where the parents get divorced. I think there was infidelity maybe that had happened. I can't remember, but I know she was beautiful. The mother was beautiful, and there was like, she was always dating somebody else. It's like there was always a new guy. And then I just remember eventually she got remarried, but there was a lot of drama and shit went on like that. And that wasn't the first time some other woman showed up there to cuss her out about her screwing around with somebody's husband or boyfriend or whatever. And so if somebody's raised in that environment, that's what they know. That's what they're emotionally anchored to. That's normal to them. It's not normal to have a healthy relationship. And so when they do get into a healthy relationship, they typically will sabotage it because it doesn't feel normal to them. They're used to the chaos. They're totally aligned with it. They're emotionally anchored to expect chaos. And when they don't get the chaos, it's like it feels like something's off in their life. So they create it. They stir shit up. And that's what this guy is experiencing. So, I mean, that, like, again, those are some extremes, but, compared to girlfriends I've had that they grow up where the parents are amazing. They're sweet. They talk things out. They never get angry with one another. If there's friction, they stay up until they resolve it, and they're always respectful and they admire one another, and that's something that's essential in a relationship. And if your girl doesn't respect you and admire you enough to be calm and talk to you and communicate lovingly, you either put up with it or you find somebody who is calm and easygoing, easy to get along with.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, for any type of relationship you get in, whether it's like a romantic relationship, business, or family oriented, they're always like, if there's a conflict, I think you should always try to find a conflict resolution. And if you can't find that ground, then you should probably try to do away with it. Sometimes you can't tap out. Tap out. You can't pick your family members, but most of the time, I mean, you just kind of,
your family, choose your peers.
You maybe avoid them,
It's just a matter of whether or not they're open to resolving that conflict.
And if they're not, then that's somebody that you don't need to be with because they wanted to have trouble the whole entire time, and that's just going to make you miserable.
It's also very stressful. Like, it's stressful to a point where it could even ruin your mental health.
You're just on thin ice the whole entire time.
Imagine, like, there's worse scenarios where there's conflict on a daily basis, but that is just as bad as weekly. Yeah, it's still stressful regardless.
You should take accountability.
You've got to be nice.
Yeah, I don't believe that that's like a healthy relationship, whether it be with your family or with a significant other, you need to definitely set some boundaries there, because you need to set some boundaries because it is vital for you to protect yourself and protect your own energy. When someone is constantly arguing with you and fighting with you, and verbally abusing you, it has an effect not only on your like work ethic, and your attitude towards other people, but your mental health and your sanity as well. So it's really important that you find a way to set those healthy boundaries for yourself and for the other people as well.
Dude, just imagine, like, I've been in this situation where it gets to the point where you get so tired of it, you even dread being with that person. Like, you dread going over to their house.
It's
you
not
dread
fun
the
anymore.
plans
It's
you
worse
have
when
with them.
you live with that person and you come home
You have
to
to
them,
come
or
home and see
or they
them.
come home, and like it's just always constant. You just feel like
You
you're in
separate
like
yourself.
a little box.
Right. You put
Yeah.
yourself in like a 2x4, and then you don't want to leave that little cage or like a
Your confinement.
Yeah.
Your area.
Well, your identity
yourself in a
gets
jail.
wrapped up in that relationship and being in it.
Not necessarily.
It always does. What you do for fun, how you spend your time together, especially if you're together
if
for
you
years.
Do something on
You
your
live
own.
together, you've moved all your stuff in, you gravitate towards having mutual friends. Like typically when you're a couple, you hang out with other people that are couples. If you got kids, you're hanging out with other people that got kids. And then all of a sudden you're divorced or you're broken up or whatever. You're living in a different place. You're not hanging out with the same people because some of them were really the other person's friends. And so hanging out with them is uncomfortable because they sided with the other person or whatever. And so it's like your whole life revolved around being in the relationship, and then all of a sudden they're not there anymore. Everything you do socially, waking up together, all that stuff has changed, and it takes getting used to. That's why it's hard, is it because your whole life is completely different. It's like hitting a reset button.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in like year-long relationships, and it is like that. Like when we broke up, I like pretty much wasn't friends with any of the friends I had when I was with him. So you lose a lot, but then
Sometimes you have people that were your friends, and then they side with the other person.
Yeah.
I see that a lot, especially in my phone sessions.
Yeah. And it's like, you can't, it's like, why can't you just be friends with both? It doesn't mean you have to hang out together and we don't have to do certain things together.
Because that's not how life works.
Yeah, but if they side with the other person, that's when you know who's like the real ones.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, also you could have done bad yourself. You could have, not been the best spouse or girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever it was, and you just need to take accountability what you did. And if your friends decide to go with somewhere else, then obviously they weren't your friends in the first place, or two, you're an asshat. So
yeah, you gotta be with somebody who's nice to you. I mean, because you have experienced extremes, right?
yes, extremes.
You got the guy that you're with now. He's pretty nice to you, right?
He's very nice to me, extremely nice. We call it like playing around, like playing like no fucker or like whatever. Like we'll say names or like not disrespecting, but just being funny to each other. And I mean, we don't argue. I did get like kind of mad at him a couple last week when he went to go pick up our Uber food, and it turned out to be just a bag of chips. I'm like, how did you not know that it's just chips?
He didn't check the merchandise.
Yeah, I was like, it's light. I was like, you didn't know that? He's like, everything is light to me. I'm like, ugh. I'm like starving, but I was just like, it's okay. I was like, I guess we'll just eat chips then. So it was fun, but I was like, oh, you don't want me when I'm hungry.
Hangry.
But hangry.
Nobody likes a hangry woman.
No, but I didn't freak out on him or anything. I was just kind of like, how did you not know? You didn't check it first? Like, what's up?
And then meanwhile, the Uber drivers drove off into the sunset.
Yeah, I had my sandwiches, my soups. It was like a $50 order.
And so you didn't get anything?
No, just chips. Just a bag of
And
Tostitos.
since you accepted the order, you couldn't prove that you didn't get the delivery?
Well, I just said I just checked the items, which I didn't get.
Did you get a refund for those?
Yeah. I still ended up paying. They still took the tip out. I'm like, and the driver supposedly was drunk and went to the other thing. And it wasn't the driver. It was supposed to be a Barbara, but it was a man. And I was like, he's like, I'm glad I went down there. I said, I kind of wish I did so I could be like, this is not what I ordered. This is not my order.
I've had, in the last year, I've had several times where things got delivered that were a completely different building.
Yeah.
The same apartment number.
I don't know what these people are doing. Well, they're not obviously not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But yeah, the guy showed up. He said he was drunk in the parking lot over. I'm like, well, I kind of wish I did, but I kind of wish I didn't. It's like, that's like under falsifying your identity, driving under somebody else's thing. I can't.